Hey there, folks. My name is Lucas Martin. I'm our business development manager here at ARC Advisory Group. Our analysts make it a priority to monitor the key technology changes, vertical industries, and any regional trends impacting the global business environment as a whole. This is a new market update segment where I'll pick the minds of our industry experts here at ARC Advisory Group. We'll chat about the scope of the market, the supplier landscape, key growth and success factors, and any key trends they may have discovered through their research. Now, let's not waste any more of your time and hop right into the interview. Hey there, folks, and welcome back to another market update episode. I'm joined by Tim Shea, a senior analyst here at ARC Advisory Group. Tim recently finished up a 2023 global market analysis report on multi-phase and virtual flow metering solutions, and I wanted to set up some time to share a little bit more with the audience today. Tim, thanks a lot for the time. Can you touch on just the scope of this market analysis report?
Well, we broke the market down into two segments. The multi-phase flow meters are basically multi-sensorial systems. So that means there's typically 3 or more sensors that are integrated into a system using a flow computer and other kinds of software. And basically they're designed to measure oil, gas, water, condensate in a one mixture. And we also looked at the virtual flow meters, which are basically software-based solutions, which can be either hydrodynamic or data-driven. In other words, saying it either can be first principle models or using artificial intelligence and machine learning. Okay, so these systems and solutions are designed for upstream oil and gas only. We cover the major regions of North America, EMEA, Asia, Latin America. We broke it down by project locations. We had onshore projects, offshore projects, which basically means topside, a platform or something like that. And then we had subsea projects. We had a number of different applications we provided. And we also looked at the market broken down by gamma ray attenuation is the primary sensing modal versus non-gamma. And we get into a little bit that later on. And then we lastly broke it down by measurement configuration. Can these systems be used with or without a test separator? That's the whole idea behind this, the market. So that's kind of how we broke down the market. We looked at hardware, software, and services. And within services, we broke it down by stationary pretty much, and then mobile well testing using the multi-phase flow meters, driving around in a truck with a little bit of a tow behind it to test these different wells.
It sounds like obviously it was a very comprehensive market analysis, and a lot of bandwidth went into it. Tim, can you touch on the supplier landscape for this market?
Sure. And what I'll do is I'll provide some of the leading providers and then talk about some of the players we found out in the virtual flow metering market that are doing some interesting things. So in alphabetical order, we had companies like Emerson, Hymo Technologies, Pietro Ferrantino, Schlumberger, obviously is a very large, one of the largest oil field service providers, and then Weatherford. So those are some of the leading providers of the physical multi-phase flow metering solutions. And then we looked at the market from a virtual flow metering solutions perspective, and we came across companies like IntelliDynamics brand, which is owned by Biocomp Systems, a company called Turbulent Flux, and Wood. So these are some of the companies that are offering what we call software-based sensors or software-based solutions in this area.
While you were doing the research, Tim, did you uncover maybe a key growth or success factors you wanted to share with the audience today?
Key growth contributors in my mind is the design of these multi-phase flow meters is really to replace the traditional expensive, bulky test separators. And these are very expensive, they're very bulky, which is particularly a problem on an offshore platform where space is a priority. And these test separators, at the best they can do is periodic test measurements, whereas the design of the multi-phase flow metering solution is to provide more real-time solutions that can help the companies to better optimize production. They better understand the well dynamics, how it's operating. It can help them with flow assurance, production allocation, production optimization. There's a number of different ways that can help them with better real-time access, and particularly in this extremely volatile oil and gas market, which you can have swings and plus 30% up and plus 30% down in companies' earnings and things like that, along with the stress of the energy transition. This real-time information is critical for these companies to get operational excellence. Another big contributing factor is there's a huge, what I call total available market. The number of wells that could potentially benefit from a multi-phase flow meter or a virtual flow meter is quite large. It's almost 1 million wells out there. So it's a very large opportunity that can drive the growth in the future. An interesting thing we're seeing with the advancements of artificial intelligence and machine learning is that virtual flow meters are rapidly becoming a really much an attractive, low-cost, complementary option to a multi-phase flow meter in the field. They sometimes are used as a validation of make sure the multi-phase flow meter is performing as to the specs, or in some cases, it could be a backup in case a multi-phase flow meter goes offline for a while. And we're seeing that the improvements due to these advancements in adding in artificial intelligence and machine learning, at some point, probably in the near future, they may be able to start actually becoming a replacement for a multi-phase flow meter. So you can actually replace these with a lower cost software solution. And lastly, we're seeing that as companies deploy these solutions, both multi-phase and virtual flow metering in the field, and they succeed and they perform as expected, that development provides a success story, which gives other companies the ability, the confidence to say, hey, it worked for this other company, I think it can work for me. So that's really 3 or 4 factors that I think are going to drive growth in the future.
Let me flip that question for you, Tim. Was there any key growth inhibiting factors that you uncovered that you maybe wanted to bring up to the audience today?
Sure. Well, since it's a very complex thing, you're trying to measure multi-composite measurements of oil and gas and water and condensate. You have to design, these systems can be somewhat complex, and that complexity leads to they're expensive to design and to build. And they range anywhere from a low-end solution for an onshore project with in volume, large volumes would be $100,000. And then you go to perhaps a subsea multi-phase flow meter, which means a lot more materials and other types of cost added to it to make sure it can operate reliably underwater for 10, 20 years. They can range anywhere from $500,000 to as high as $1 million, depending on this type of system. So they're very costly to design and build, and they're also costly to maintain. And there was in the past, earlier, there was some challenges with some earlier multi-phase deployments. In fact, I've heard stories of, this company has 10 of these things sitting on the subsea floor doing nothing. They basically fail. So there was some challenges with the earlier performance of multi-phase flow meters. So that kind of has given some hesitancy to some of the end users out there, before they decide to invest.
So kind of along that last line you stated, do you have any strategies you recommend to buyers of these systems? And how do you feel technology end users or the asset owners could benefit from something like this?
To go along with the line of the complexity of not only the systems, but also you can have one well in one part here, and then maybe 5 or 10 miles away, that a different well could have different material compositions going on, different issues, different environmental factors that may impact the performance of the solution. So we recommend that companies really working with the suppliers, particularly to select a solution that's going to meet their environmental and operational requirements. And that's looking at things like gas volume fractions, gas oil ratios, water liquid ratios, whether there's wet gas or heavy oil, all these different factors, pipe sizing. And then as part of that, as a follow-on, to work with suppliers that are willing to act as a partner. And a lot of times that means they might need some customization of some things, tweaking some of the software to set up to meet the certain requirements of the phase or the flow regimes of that well versus another one. So there's some customization there. Perhaps there's a lot of push right now towards a more modular design. I mean, you can add and subtract components depending on the requirements of the well and the project. And then also, lastly, since these things really need to be validated and tested, try to work with suppliers, but also work with independent testing entities, TUV, SUD, NEL, organizations like that will do testing of these things. So ideally, the owner-operator wants to have the solution tested to something that's similar to their environmental conditions.
How do you feel the asset owners or the end users could benefit from research like this? Specifically, our selection guides or maybe our STAR process?
That's a great question. So in addition to learning about, the end users can learn about who are the key suppliers that they should consider. We talk about some of their technology solutions and how they operate, what the different types of sensing technologies they're employing, what type of services they may be providing, what applications and project locations they can serve. So they're getting all that background information as to the market dynamics that will help them make a decision. And then in the selection guide, we add in some key technical and commercial criteria that we think that they should be considering when you're selecting a multi-phase solution or even a virtual flow metering solution. Certain things you want to be asking these suppliers to see how they respond so that you can compare one supplier versus another. And then, of course, the star is basically taking this and then applying it to helping the customer design a weighting system so that each of these criteria can be weighted in terms of importance to them, so that they can decide this issue is more important than that. And so they can grade each supplier and come up with a more objective response as to who their best option might be. So those are some of the key things we think in the selection guides in the STAR process.
And let me flip that on you, Tim. Overall, buyers or suppliers, how do you feel they could benefit from market analysis such as this?
Well, the suppliers will get a good understanding of the competitive landscape. I mean, who their key competitors are, what their regional focus is in terms of where they should be spending their sales and marketing resources, what applications they can provide. So that gives them a chance to compare and benchmark themselves as to which companies are good in subsea, which companies are better in offshore, which companies are better in onshore, and kind of get a better sense as to how they can map up and compare to their competitors. And then lastly, we provide an objective third-party market forecast outlook. So that can kind of give them a sort of a sane outlook on where the market is actually going in the future to help them better plan their product development, sales and marketing resource allocation, things like that.
Thanks a lot for the time, Tim. I know we're running out of it. Just a reminder to the audience, we'll have links to our website and more information about this market analysis report in the description below. You can contact us directly through that webpage. We'd love to discuss how market data, analysis, selection guides, and reports like this can help your company. Thanks a lot for the time, and we'll see you on the next market update episode.